Hey everybody, Destaka here. So I don't know if the microphone can pick it up, but outside there's birds chirping, which means it's almost spring, so it's time to do an oil change in my bike. So the first thing you're going to need is something to catch the oil in. Now, to drain the oil, you have a 12mm bolt right here. And the important thing is, okay, if the motorcycle is really hot, is not to burn your fingers with the oil coming out of the engine that's going to be fairly warm, but the bolt's also going to be hot. Now the one thing you can do to actually help the oil drain a little faster is remove your oil filler cap on the other side. That lets air in to help let the oil out, and I've already done that. So just put the wrench on here and give this thing just a slight brake, it's all it needs. It's been torqued to correct specs. It shouldn't take a lot of effort to get this off. And you can see it's just coming off. Now what I tend to do is hook my finger on the bolt and the crush washer and then pull it out. You can see that way you don't drop this sucker in the oil and then go bolt fishing. And the oil looks almost brand new because I'm only got a couple thousand kilometers on it this year, or last year. Now, so the oil is now down to a trickle. You know, I'm not going to have any gushes of oil, so now I'm going to slide the thing a little bit more this way, because the next thing I have to do is the oil filter. And no matter how careful you are, there will always be a little bit of oil leaking out of the oil filter. So let me just move the camera a bit. All right. Now you can see the oil filter. You generally have to use a wrench because it's going to be hot. You can use an insulated glove. Rubber back gloves actually work really good. But I'll put this on here. You just, there you go. Just give her a couple little turns. It's not a lot, doesn't need a lot to break it free, because all you're really doing is breaking the O-ring, and you can see right there's oil draining out of the filter. And you don't want to drop the oil filter in here either, because besides the fact it's going to make a giant splash and get oil all over the place. Okay, now to put the oil I'm using on my bike is Motul 7100 10W40 100% synthetic. Now, I have used semi-synthetic in the past, and the price difference between this and semi-synthetic is a little more, but the full synthetic tends to be a little bit a more robust oil, and the problem with RC51s is traditionally they always run hot. You know, when a liquid cool motorcycle shows up from the factory with a built-in oil cooler, you know the motorcycle actually is pretty tough on its oil. So I decided about 3 years ago to switch over to this oil, and haven't had a problem with it since. The only problem with using fully synthetic is once you've used it, you can't go back to you know, the regular oil without having to replace the clutch plates. But I'm not planning on selling this bike, so it's not a problem to me. There we go. Push this a little bit forward. A little bit of oil in the finger. And just a little bit of oil on the rubber seal. That is your oil filter. All right, put it back in this. So we're going to put the filter on now. Always make certain you don't cross threads. Should be going on nice and easily. Now there actually is a torque value for this. And I looked at it and went, generally what has worked forever is to, not get oil in your hand, is to tighten it up as tight as you can, and then just about a quarter turn past that. I'm just gonna put a wrench on it for a second and just give it a, there we go, we're good. It's not a lot. Now you can actually buy a socket wrench that actually fits over the end of these, like a socket adapter, and you can actually hook this up to your torque wrench. I don't actually know anybody who has one. I've never seen them using them in motorcycle shops either, so. I'll put this out of the way here for a second. I can do the same thing here. Like I can see now in here where basically there's just a tiny little dribble of oil coming in here where the bolts are, where the thread is. Now I'm going to be switching my drain plug to one that's actually pre-drilled for safety wire. It's something I've actually always used on my my race bikes. It's a requirement. And I've actually done it on all my street bikes except for this one because I've never actually found a pre-drilled drain bolt until this winter. So I'm actually, if you're interested, the company is, let's get the glare out of here, is Nice CNC. It is made in China, but I'm actually able to get it from the UK through Amazon UK. And the other reason I happened to grab this one was that it actually has a magnet in the end of it, so when you do an oil change, you can always check if there's little metal fragments. Now the only one thing that's different from this one, your stock bolt, it actually has a, this is actually a 12 millimeter hex, where that one is a 14. So this is actually slightly larger. And we'll put this there we go. And that is 22 foot-pounds. Now the nice thing is I'll actually be able to safety wire this once I'm confirmed it's not leaking. If it's leaking, I'm going to be a very annoyed person. So that's it for tightening the bolts and the oil filter. And now we have to pour oil on the other side. So we're going to switch over to the other side of the bike. So with all typical motorcycles in the world, the filter cap is almost impossible to access at. I'm using a oil filter that I can sort of get stuff in. You sort of try to jam it in here. There will always be some oil that's not going to try to get in. And it takes two hands to put her in, so I'm just going to and this sucker gets heavy, so now what I try to do is pour it, as much of it as straight down as possible. The bike actually requires 3.9 liters of oil, and this is a 4-liter container. I just wanted to show you this. So as you can see right now, okay, there's two lines here. This is your low oil level, that is your high oil level. Now the first time you do an oil change, you always fill the bike up to the high oil level before you start it. Because right now, all your oil is down here. Now once you start this motorcycle up, it's going to put some of the oil into the oil filter and distribute it around the engine. And it should drop down. It might even drop down below low oil level, so of course you have to check it again. I'm just going to put this oil out of the way, and I'm just going to start the bike for a second. Actually not looking at having it run, just cycle. Okay. All right, so what I did there was I just cycled the engine a few times with the kill switch on. So it's actually cycled some oil through the engine before I started it. So now you can see the oil is now at the lower oil limit. But what we'll do is we'll let the oil that's been pushed around settle back to where it is. I think it's probably still a little low. You can see now after letting the oil settle back where it was, I still had to add a couple globs of oil to get it to where it is now. It's just a little bit above the 2 hash marks is where I tend to like to keep it. And this bike generally doesn't lose oil over the course of a season anyways. But I always do occasionally check the oil to make sure I'm not anything unusual going on. And the bike's always parked over a clean bit of floor, so if there's anything on the floor that's not supposed to be there, I spot it right away. So if you have any questions, put them in the comment there. I'd be happy to answer them. So that's my oil change on my Honda RC51. Dan Stalker, signing out.